Yeah, you want to look at these smaller projects. The ones I've talked about that have around a 2 to 3 ETH floor. In my opinion, there's still definitely room for anywhere from a 5 to 20x within the next bull run. So that could be in a month, 2 or 3 months from now for a lot of these projects. Because as we know, the NFT space moves very fast. It's very volatile. So when it does pump, it pumps hard. But of course, that is a double-edged sword. You're carrying a lot of risk as well. So, but yeah, absolutely 5, 20x, 25x gains are on the table.
Hey, welcome back everybody to Altcoin Daily. Today we are joined with NFT expert, Blockchain Gavin. He has a great YouTube channel, investing, crypto, NFTs. He has some of the best NFT information in the space. Happy to have him on. In today's video, I want to talk about top NFT projects, the blue chips, his personal favorites, the moonshots. We're going to talk about it all. Gavin's going to tell us the top NFT projects in the space that are undervalued, hopefully. We'll talk about it. Gavin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure to have you here. Just for the folks at home, please, if you could continue the introduction and talk about what you talk about on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a YouTube channel where I basically cover and talk about upcoming NFT projects that I'm looking to buy and sell. I'm also on Twitter where I do the same thing. And basically I just bring my trading knowledge that I've accumulated for the past four and a half to 5 years from trading other markets such as crypto, Forex, stocks. And I bring that to my trading with NFTs.
Excellent. I like that. Let's jump right into it. I'm curious to hear about some specific NFT projects. These are, the top NFT projects. Do you want to start with what you consider the more blue chips?
Yeah, absolutely. So to start, obviously we have something like the Bored Ape Yacht Club ecosystem by Yuga Labs. They've got Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, Bored Ape Kennel Club. We've got CryptoPunks, which Yuga Labs just acquired. And then we've got more not as solid, but upcoming projects such as Doodles or Azuki, which, as you know, we met up at that Azuki meetup. And essentially, these are the projects where, like, let's say right now, the current NFT space, the current NFT market that we're seeing now, in a few months from now, maybe in a year from now, it's probably not going to exist, at least not how it's happening now. Obviously, we'll focus into more of the utilization of what NFTs can do, such as for play-to-earn gaming, having player-owned assets in games, or a good point that one of the team members in my group, Azeroth, brought up in the Twitter Spaces. Real estate markets already looking to tokenize contracts to provide proof of ownership, proof of validity of documents and stuff like that. So currently I see these more blue chip projects like that are the big ones like Bored Ape Yacht Club, Mutant Ape Yacht Club, CryptoPunks, as the Rolexes, the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris of Web3, of social media, of the metaverse, whatever you want to call it, in the future that are probably going to stick around. But most everything else is definitely going to fade away. But these are going to be here to stay because it's always going to be a metric of vanity, like Gary Vee always speaks about. There's always going to be those people who want to, show up to the scene in their Lamborghini, in their G-Wagon, show what they have in their collection. So these blue chips are more of the reliable way to enter, if you have the capital or if you pick them up early, because that they're probably going to maintain value just based on vanity metrics, which is governed by human behavior. And that's just simply what people want and like.
Yeah, I totally get that when it comes to being something to show off. NFTs are vanity because you get collectibles and certain stuff that you have in your room and, your 10 friends see it. But on social media, on Web3, hundreds or thousands of people could see it. And it seems like a natural progression.
Exactly. And, on social media or Web3, the metaverse, you can't really pull up with your Lamborghini, your Ferrari, your Rolex. And that's always going to be a medium for people. And this kind of gives them a way to do that, a way to say, hey, I've either been in the space, I'm an OG, I have this is in my collection, or, hey, I can afford this. It's at the end of the day, it comes down to status, whether you like it or not, that's always going to be a factor in any market or environment.
Yeah. So while we're talking about blue chip NFT projects, I think I understand why CryptoPunks and Bored Apes are blue chips. CryptoPunks was one of the first. Bored Apes as well. And they did this, had this fun community. But then things like Doodles and Azuki, what makes those blue chip projects out of the hundreds and hundreds of PFP generative collections there are?
Yeah, so the big thing about something like Azuki or Doodles, and why I continue to hold Azuki and why I look to pick up something like Doodles or Azuki on the recent dips in this current like bear market sentiment, is because similar to something like CryptoPunks or Bored Ape Yacht Club, what you'll see in the market is when something new or innovative comes out, they tend to set a major trend. So whenever Bored Ape Yacht Club came out, there was a major ape derivative trend back in October, back in November of 2021, December, there still is. Then we had something like Doodles come out. I think that was in September, maybe November. And we saw a major doodle derivative, and we still are. And then the most recent one was the massive anime trend, which was sparked by Azuki. So the thing is, what these projects have in common is that they are a one of its kind. They are the trend setters, and they're the first to do it. So if you see a project like this that pops up, they're doing something new, they're doing something unique, maybe it's innovative, maybe they've got an awesome team behind it, they're trying to build out more backend utility. But as far as the actual art goes, if they are a first of its kind, then they typically are those trendsetters. They are the catalyst to the new trends. And so that's what you want to pay attention to, because if the market is shifting into a trend based off that project, then you kind of know, okay, this project is the first of its kind. It's probably going to have a really solid hold in the market and do well overall because they're the first of its kind. And similar to something like CyberKongz as well.
What is CyberKongz?
So CyberKongz is it's another really big collection. I think the floor for that one is like 100 ETH.
Damn.
They kind of started the whole Genesis collection where there's only like 1,000, and then you could eventually breed and burn babies. So they kind of brought in tokenized metrics or mechanics and burning mechanisms. So they're kind of one of the first of its kind for that as well. So they're like a pixelized collection. And yeah, they brought in like the burn mechanics that a lot of collections do today.
Cool. And so CyberKongz, in your opinion, is another blue chip. I mean, it must be if it has a 100 ETH floor.
Yeah. CyberKongz holders are very proud, just like Bored Ape Yacht Club holders for sure. And even if you own a baby, because they have the Genesis collection, then they have the babies, and the babies last time I checked was like 9 or 10 ETH just for a baby.
Mm-hmm. What is your overall opinion of collections doing than the version 2 and version 3, like the Mutant Apes and then the Bored Ape Kennel Club?
I think it just comes down to if it's kind of like Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? If Bitcoin eventually goes up, if it hits $100,000, for example, well, we're going to see Ethereum hit new all-time highs, whether it's 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 10,000. So I kind of see it in the same correlation. So if the Genesis collection does well, if it keeps taking off, if it keeps gaining momentum, the version 2 is always going to do well. It's always going to follow in its footsteps. And it also is more accessible to people who can't afford the Genesis collection. And the mass market, the majority of buyers simply cannot afford that Genesis collection. It's too far of their price point. So I think if the initial collection does well, then the version 2 will certainly do well as well.
Cool. So we talked about blue chips. Let's jump into, maybe the next tier down, or your personal favorites. Which collections are you looking at that you think are undervalued or have a lot of potential?
Absolutely. So I definitely say, even though we kind of touched on them, Azuki and Doodles, because they aren't so established, their floor prices are relatively low. Just about a week ago, Doodles was floating around 8 or 9 ETH. Azuki dipped down to 8 ETH. Currently, Azuki just pumped to 18 ETH. They currently have an 18 ETH floor right now. Doodles is sitting around 14 ETH. Another one would be CloneX. So a lot of people see them as blue chips. They're not as established yet. Then if we hop down a tier further, where we're starting to see like 2 to 5 ETH price ranges, that's where I'd bring in something like NanoPass, which is a land-based NFT. Land-based NFTs are doing really well right now. That's going to be a trend. We've got something like Karafuru NFT. Those are amazing. They're holding up really well. They did something, their artwork is like one of a kind on its own, but they also did something really unique where most NFT collections, there's just one body and then they've got different traits. But Karafuru did something where they got like 12 different body types plus different traits. So it's kind of a newer version of its collection. So Karafuru, NanoPass, potentially this smaller collection called Three Landers. They've only got about a 1.70 floor. Oh, and definitely Neo Tokyo. I forgot to mention Neo Tokyo. So I just recently picked up two Neo Tokyo Season 2 Outer Identities, and that is kind of like the V2 collection. Because when I pick up things to hold long term, I'm not picking up off the art. Same thing with the Azuki. The art is cool, but the art doesn't matter to me. This is a lot of money to be investing and holding in just based off of art. For me, it's about what's behind it, the community, the team, what are they building out in the background? So when you look at something like Neo Tokyo and you've got Alex Becker, that's kind of like my hedge. That's kind of like why I buy in. So I would definitely say Neo Tokyo Season 2. That's a good one. They're currently sitting at around 2.5 to 3 ETH. Yeah, but realistically, there's not too many. A lot of them are very speculative, but there are some good ones that are up and coming.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the projects you said was like land-based. Is that like land in the metaverse type thing?
Yeah, so it's called Project NanoPass, and they've got a whole ecosystem. I've spoken to their team. They've actually got the most hyped project in the market that hasn't minted yet is coming up. It's called PXN, otherwise known as Phantom Network. And that is going to be part of their ecosystem. But essentially, there's a lot of land-based projects. We've got Nanoverse, we've got NFT Worlds, we've got Metroverse. But yeah, these are like more land-based NFTs where you get tokens for holding and staking these lands, and they all have different roadmaps and different utilities for what they're going to bring. But land-based NFTs are definitely a major play right now for sure.
And how big of gains are we talking just generally in the NFT space? Are these ones that you named in the last couple of minutes, can you get like a 10x, or are the blue chips, do you think they're still good to hold, or how do you generally think about it?
Well, here's the way I like to think about it. So, a lot of people, they like to focus on the numbers in terms of X's, but let's say you pick up an NFT at 0.5 ETH and it does a 10x and you're sitting at 5 ETH. Well, that's a great return. But what if I just picked up another Azuki last week at 8 ETH and the current floor is now 18 ETH? That's only a 2x, but I just scored an extra 9 ETH. So I think if you have more liquidity to play with and you can get into these better, more established blue chip projects in a bear market like we've seen, obviously you want to buy low, sell high. So wait till a bear market, wait to the dip, just like if you're buying cryptocurrency. You're going to get a lot more return off of these blue chip projects because they don't have to go up. They don't have to do a 2 or 3x for you to make a lot of money. But if you don't have a lot, then yeah, you want to look at these smaller projects. The ones I've talked about that have around a 2 to 3 ETH floor. In my opinion, there's still definitely room for anywhere from a 5 to 20x within the next bull run. So that could be in a month, 2 or 3 months from now for a lot of these projects. Because as we know, the NFT space moves very fast. It's very volatile. So when it does pump, it pumps hard. But of course, that is a double-edged sword. You're carrying a lot of risk as well. So, but yeah, absolutely 5, 20x, 25x gains are on the table.
I like it. Now, as we wind down here, talking about top NFT projects in the space, do you have any moonshots, high risk, high reward, or what trends do you see coming up in the future in general that you're looking at?
Absolutely. So for me, like one of the moonshot plays I just made was, Neo Tokyo Season 2 Outer Identities. They dipped down to around 2 ETH and I picked 2 up, and it's a moonshot for me because these guys had an all-time high of 15 ETH. So just getting back to all-time highs, that's around a 13 ETH profit. We also have, again, Alex Becker, who's behind it. He runs a $50 million marketing company outside of crypto. So I know he has both the connections and the monetary aspect to execute and fulfill on whatever he's trying to build out. We've also got something, as I mentioned, Karafuru. I still think that that's very undervalued. I could easily see Karafuru going to something like 8 to 10 ETH in the near future, maybe in the next bull run. They're currently sitting around 2.5 ETH.
What makes it special again?
So Karafuru, it's an Indonesian-based project. They have something called the House of Museum in Indonesia. It's like this art-based NFT museum, and they were the ones who created 12 different body types for all of their characters. And at the end of the day, like, these are profile picture projects, and people really do care about the art, and their artwork is very unique. It's very aesthetic. It's just very good. So those definitely stand out to me. And then something like Three Landers would be another moonshot, relatively cheap, but a lot of room for growth. And same thing with Nanoverse, especially as they're building out that project I mentioned, PXN. They're building out their Nanoverse ecosystem. There's like 3 or 4 projects that all tie in together. It's not just one project. So they're really trying to build out more of an ecosystem in the Web3 space rather than just having one project in one area. And speaking of Nanoverse, they are actually, they're trying to build out an AI system in Nanoverse. So you're going to basically, if you're a Nanoverse holder, NanoPass, you will have access to something like a Siri. They've hired a really reputable company and engineers to basically develop their own AI. So they're working on some cool stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Appreciate you taking the time with us today, Gavin. Anything else, thinking about the future of the NFT space? Any final thoughts for our Altcoin Daily audience?
The one thing I would say is that if you're newer, if you're coming into the space, just keep in mind that this is a very fast-paced market. Conditions are always changing. You need to adapt quickly. What worked last month may not work next month. The shift is certainly coming more to play to earn gaming. So I would definitely focus on that and just be open. Don't get set on one type of area in the NFT space. The area is going to broaden quickly, especially as more entities with more money come into the market. So yeah, just be open to flow with the market as it adapts, as it grows and evolves.
I encourage everybody to go subscribe to Gavin's YouTube channel, linked below. I'm a subscriber, provides a lot of good NFT value. And I guess one follow-up, play to earn games. Are there any on your radar right now? What do you think of the space? Or are you just waiting and watching because you just know one's going to hit once it's like a fun game?
Absolutely. There are some pretty good ones. So we just had one launch. It's called Undead Blocks. They basically created the first Call of Duty Zombies, but for play to earn gaming. They are also planning on doing King of the Hill, so something like PUBG. So that is a good one that just minted. I'm actually holding one of those. Not financial advice, do your own research. Very speculative play. Also, we've got Big Time. We've got Illuvium. So there's a lot of upcoming big games. What I'm more interested is to see if these bigger companies like Blizzard, Activision, who they have games like World of Warcraft, can come into the space and create something on their end as well for their community. So yeah, a lot to focus in on play to earn gaming for sure.
Awesome. Gavin, thank you so much for being on today. Everybody go subscribe to Gavin's YouTube channel, and we're going to have you on for a second interview. We talked about the top projects. Everybody look forward to us just talking about buying and selling strategy, just all strategy. Gavin, thanks for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure. And